The clang of metal against metal echoed relentlessly across the shattered plains of Vyerx 9. Sparks flew like miniature stars scattering into the twilight as the cybernetic Gorgon warriors advanced, their sleek mechanical limbs whirring with lethal precision. "Look at him," hissed the lead Gorgon, a venomous gleam in his multifaceted eyes. The last human hunter standing, armed with a spear. How quaint! His mocking laughter rippled through the chaos like a venomous tide. At the heart of this storm stood the human, known only by the legend whispered among his people as the Hunter. His grip tightened around the weathered shaft of the spear, its wooden surface scarred and worn from countless hunts on his homeworld, a small, untouched planet where technology had never seeped so deeply. His breath came in slow, measured bursts, each exhale a cloud in the cold, toxic air. He could hear the mocking jeers, the taunts from the Gorgons, but what churned louder was the tempest inside him. Could this relic of a weapon, primitive and fragile against the monstrous machines, withstand their relentless assault? The question gnawed at his resolve, yet beneath the surface, a flicker of resolve sparked in his deep-set eyes. The spear was more than wood and stone, it was a symbol. A connection to a past where survival demanded more than circuitry and cold calculation. It was his last link to humanity's raw, untamed spirit. "Your machines will not save you, Hunter," snarled another Gorgon, its synthetic voice dripping with contempt. "Your spear will shatter before our blades even touch you." The words were meant to break him, but instead, they steeled his nerves. The Hunter's eyes darted across the battlefield, noting the movements of the Gorgons, their synchronized attacks, their mechanical grace. They were designed for domination, a perfect fusion of flesh and steel, but he was a wild card. Unpredictable and desperate. He shifted his weight, feeling the coarse soil beneath his boots, a reminder of where he came from. "Maybe," he whispered to himself, "but they underestimate the Hunter." He lunged forward, the spear thrusting with a primal fury born of desperation and ancient skill. The spear's tip grazed the armored leg of a Gorgon, sparks erupting where metal met wood. But it was enough to stagger the creature briefly. The Gorgon's laughter turned to a guttural growl of surprise. A mere scratch, it spat, but the hesitation was there. The Hunter twisted away, dodging a sweeping mechanical arm that could have crushed bone and circuit alike. His mind raced. He needed more than brute force, he needed cunning. Memories flickered through his mind, the quiet forests of his home planet, the silent patience of a stalking prey. The artful dance of ambush. Technology might wield power, but it lacked instinct. "Is that all you've got, human?" mocked the lead Gorgon again, stepping closer, its serpentine tail twitching with impatience. "Your ancestors would be laughing at this pathetic display." The Hunter's lips curled into a grim smile. "Maybe," he said under his breath, "but this Hunter is not my ancestor." With a sudden, sharp intake of breath, he planted the spear's butt into the ground and spun, using the momentum to propel the sharpened tip toward the Gorgon's exposed joint. The spear struck with a sickening crunch, a momentary glitch in the machine's flawless assault. The Gorgon reeled, its movements stuttering as if surprised by the primitive weapon's effectiveness. Around him, the other cybernetic warriors faltered, their coordinated advance disrupted. The laughter that had filled the air was replaced by a tense silence, broken only by the Hunter's ragged breaths and the distant crackle of failing electronics. For a heartbeat, the battlefield seemed to freeze. The Hunter locked eyes with the lead Gorgon, an unspoken challenge passing between them. "You think your machines make you invincible," the Hunter said, voice low but steady. "But they lack heart, they lack soul." The lead Gorgon's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Heart, soul, sentiment is weakness." "Perhaps," the Hunter admitted, "but it's also survival." He gripped the spear tighter, muscles coiling like a spring ready to release. Around him, the ruins of a once great city loomed, shattered towers and twisted metal skeletons bearing silent witness to the carnage. The wind carried the faint scent of burning oil and scorched earth, mingling with the metallic tang of blood and machine lubricant. The hunter's mind flashed back to the day he left his homeworld, the quiet planet where the sky was untainted by holograms and the forest still breathed with life. He had been a simple hunter then, skilled in tracking and stalking prey without the aid of technology. But the invasion changed everything. The human armies had fallen swiftly, overwhelmed by the Gorgons, superior firepower and cybernetic might. He had survived by clinging to the old ways, refusing to let go of the spear that had been his father's and his father's before him. "Why do you fight like this?" A voice whispered within him, doubt gnawing at the edges of his resolve. Why not surrender, join them? You could live. But surrender meant losing his humanity. The hunter tightened his jaw. "I fight because I must." Suddenly, the Gorgons surged forward again, their blades flashing under the dying light. The hunter ducked just in time to avoid a lethal strike, rolling across the scorched ground. He felt the rough texture of the spear's shaft against his palms, grounding him amidst the chaos. His eyes flicked to a cluster of jagged debris nearby, perhaps a trap. "Come on, old friend," he muttered. "Show them what you're made of." With a controlled breath, the hunter darted toward the debris, baiting the Gorgons into pursuit. His body moved with the fluid grace of a seasoned predator, every step calculated, every movement deliberate. The Gorgons, confident in their technological superiority, followed without hesitation. As he reached the debris, he pivoted sharply, using the spear to vault over a fallen beam, and then plunged the spear's blade into a concealed pressure plate hidden beneath the rubble. A low rumble shook the ground, the remnants of an ancient defense system, long dormant, now awakening. Explosions erupted around the Gorgons, sending shards of metal and dust into the air. The Gorgons reeled, their formations broken. The hunter seized the moment, charging into the fray with renewed vigor. His spear flashed in the dim light, striking with precision and purpose. Each strike was a statement, a declaration that even in a world dominated by machines, the spirit of the hunter still burned fiercely. As the first wave of Gorgons faltered, the hunter allowed himself a brief, fierce grin. The spear, crude and simple, had bought him time, but the war was far from over and deep within. He knew the true battle was yet to come. Amidst the smoke and ruin, the hunter whispered to the wind, "This is only the beginning." The hunter's breath came heavy, his body slick with sweat despite the biting chill that clung to the battlefield like a shroud. Around him, the wounded and fallen lay scattered, their groans swallowed by the mechanical drone of the advancing cybernetic Gorgons. The crude spear in his grip felt both a burden and a lifeline, primitive, yes, but imbued with the weight of generations. Yet the jeers from his own comrades echoed relentlessly in his ears, sharper than any blade. "Seriously, Hunter," a grizzled soldier spat, wiping grime from his brow as he leaned against a scorched wall. "You can't be serious with that ancient stick. Look at us. We've got plasma rifles, energy shields, cybernetic implants. And you're waving around a glorified toothpick." Another voice, younger and less seasoned, chimed in. "Maybe if you upgraded to something more modern, you wouldn't get laughed off the field every time." The hunter's jaw clenched, the familiar sting of humiliation tightening his chest. He lowered his spear slightly, the polished wood catching the dying light, its surface scratched and chipped from years of use. "This spear isn't just wood and stone," he said quietly, voice firm despite the rising tide of doubt. "It carries the spirit of my people, the raw, untamed will to survive. You all rely on machines, but machines can fail. They don't have instinct. They don't understand heart. A snort of derision came from a cybernetically enhanced soldier nearby. His arm a gleaming fusion of metal and flesh. Heart, that's sentimental fantasy. The Gorgons have tech that makes your kind obsolete. You're clinging to a relic, and it's going to get you killed. The hunter met the man's eyes, steady and unflinching. Maybe, he said, but I'd rather die holding onto my heritage than live as a cog in some machine. The tension in the air thickened, the divide between tradition and technology glaringly obvious. Yet beneath the surface of mockery, the hunter felt a flicker of something else, respect perhaps. Or maybe it was just the stubborn hope that his way was not yet extinct. Suddenly, a sharp whistle cut through the din. The lead commander barked orders, voice grim. Gorgon sighted 10 clicks east. They're moving fast. Prepare to engage. The hunter's heart hammered. This wasn't just another skirmish. It was the front line of humanity's last stand. The Gorgons, with their cybernetic enhancements and ruthless efficiency, had crippled entire battalions in minutes. Yet here he stood, spear in hand, ready to face them once more. His thoughts drifted briefly to his past, the simplicity of his homeworld, where the forests whispered secrets and survival depended on skill, not circuitry. Back then he was a hunter in the truest sense, patient, cunning, connected to the earth beneath his feet. The spear was more than a weapon. It was a symbol handed down from father to son, a testament to resilience and honor. But now, in this war-torn landscape, that heritage felt like a double-edged sword. His comrades viewed him as outdated, a relic of a forgotten era. The Gorgons saw him as a joke, and deep inside, a gnawing question lingered. Could the instincts of a lone hunter truly stand against the cold logic of alien machines? The sound of approaching footsteps jolted him from his reverie. A young scout approached, urgency in her eyes. "Hunter, command wants you up front. They say you're the only one willing to face the Gorgons head-on." He nodded, gripping the spear tighter. "Then I'll give them a show they won't forget." As he moved toward the front lines, the whispers and snickers followed him like shadows. "There goes the spear-wielding fool," someone muttered. Another voice sneered, "He's going to get himself killed." The hunter swallowed the lump of shame rising in his throat, but refused to let it break him. Instead, he focused on the rhythm of his breathing, the rough texture of the spear's shaft beneath his fingers. Grounding him in the chaos. "Why do you carry that thing?" the scout asked quietly as they ran side by side. He glanced at her, eyes fierce. "Because it's who I am. Because it reminds me that we're more than just circuits and algorithms. We're flesh, blood, and spirit, and no machine can take that away." She looked at him with a mixture of admiration and doubt. "I hope you're right." The battlefield lay ahead, a twisted maze of rubble and smoke, punctuated by the menacing silhouettes of the Gorgons. Their mechanical limbs moved with terrifying precision, their glowing eyes scanning for any sign of weakness. The hunter took a deep breath, steeling himself. "Then let's show them what it means to be human." As he stepped into the fray, the first volley of plasma bolts hissed past him, scorching the ground where he'd stood moments before. The spear was light in his hands, his fingers tightening around it as he dodged and weaved through the hail of fire. A towering Gorgon loomed ahead, its metallic tail whipping through the air. The hunter's muscles coiled, instincts kicking in. With a grunt, he lunged forward, spear aimed at the joint of the creature's armored leg. The tip struck true, sparks flying as metal met hardened wood. The Gorgon faltered, a low mechanical growl escaping its throat. Primitive, it hissed, but effective. Around him, the other soldiers hesitated, watching in disbelief as the hunter's spear disrupted the seemingly invincible machine. The battlefield shifted, hope flickered, yet the hunter's mind was a storm of conflicting emotions. The thrill of success battled with the sting of isolation. His comrades, earlier jeers echoed still, a reminder that victory alone wouldn't earn their respect. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the chaos. "Hunter, fall back, they're regrouping." He hesitated, spear poised. A part of him wanted to press the advantage, to prove beyond doubt that the spear was more than a relic. But strategy demanded caution. Reluctantly, he withdrew, weaving through the smoke and debris, every step measured. The Gorgon's relentless advance was a tide he couldn't yet turn alone. Back among his team, the murmurs resumed. "He got lucky," one muttered. "That spear won't save him next time." The hunter's eyes burned with quiet defiance. Luck had little to do with it. It was skill, heart, and an unyielding belief in humanity's worth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the shattered city, the hunter stood atop a crumbling wall, spear resting against his shoulder. The distant hum of alien machines was a constant reminder of the battle ahead. He whispered into the dying light, "They may laugh now, but I will show them. I will prove that a man with a spear can stand against a legion of machines." In that moment, beneath the alien stars, the hunter was more than just a warrior. He was a symbol, a testament to the enduring spirit of mankind, refusing to be silenced by the cold march of technology. And as the night deepened, so did his resolve. The war was far from over, but the hunter's fight had only just begun. "Wait," whispered Jalen, his voice sharp enough to cut through the cacophony of clanking metal and war cries. He gripped the crude spear tightly, eyes flickering with urgent warning. "They can reprogram them. The Gorgons, these machines, they're not just mindless killers. If one of them goes down, it can be rebooted, reprogrammed, turned against us." A ripple of dismissive laughter met his words. Mara, the squad's tactical officer, shook her head with a smirk. "Come on, Jalen. You really think our primitive spear can hack into those cybernetic beasts? They're engineered with layers of encrypted protocols. Your little stick can't possibly do that." Jalen's jaw clenched, frustration simmering beneath his calm exterior. "I'm not talking about hacking with circuits. I mean physical reprogramming, interrupting their control nodes, forcing a reboot. It's happened before. The Gorgons aren't invincible." "You're grasping at straws," muttered Dax, a heavily augmented soldier, his cybernetic arm flexing as he adjusted his plasma rifle. "We're fighting machines here, not animals. A spear won't cut it." But Jalen's firm gaze held theirs. Underestimating what primitive tools can do is a mistake. It's not about the spear's tech level. It's about exploiting their weaknesses. If we don't try, we're already lost. The squad's skepticism lingered like thick smoke, but before anyone could respond, an unearthly shriek tore through the battlefield. The cybernetic Gorgons had closed in, their multifaceted eyes glowing ominously beneath layers of gleaming armor. Suddenly, the ground trembled as the hunter, the man known only by that title, was separated from the group, propelled backward by a volley of plasma blasts and mechanical strikes. His breath hitched as he found himself face to face with a towering cybernetic Gorgon, its serpentine tail lashing with lethal precision. "Well, well," the Gorgon hissed, its voice a distorted blend of synthetic snarls and ancient malice. The last human hunter, alone and clinging to that pitiful spear. "Tell me, how does it feel to be so hopelessly outmatched?" The hunter's grip tightened, knuckles whitening around the worn shaft of his spear. Despite the jeers, a flicker of determination sparked in his chest. He met the Gorgon's gaze without flinching. "Better than it feels for you, standing there overconfident with your shiny toys." The hunter replied, voice low and steady, "You forget machines don't have instinct. They don't know fear or desperation." The Gorgon's multifaceted eyes glinted with amusement. "Fear, desperation, sentiments for the weak. I am evolution perfected, cold, precise, unstoppable." The hunter's pulse quickened, but he forced himself to breathe steady, his survival instincts kicking in. He circled slowly, feeling the coarse dirt beneath his boots, the familiar texture grounding him amidst the chaos. The spear, though primitive, was an extension of his will, a lifeline to a past where survival depended on skill, not circuitry. The Gorgon lunged, metallic claws slashing through the air. The hunter dove backward, narrowly avoiding the strike. His thoughts raced. He had to stay mobile, use the terrain, and above all, keep his wits. As he dodged, his eyes caught a faint flicker of light beneath the Gorgon's armored chest, a small, recessed panel. Barely noticeable amid the mechanical plating, a data port. A conduit for commands, most likely, a vulnerability. Curiosity piqued, the hunter's mind raced. Could this be the key, if he could reach that port? Perhaps he could disrupt the Gorgon systems, force a reboot, reprogram it to his advantage. The idea ignited a spark of hope he hadn't felt in hours. But the Gorgon was relentless, its strikes growing more aggressive. The hunter ducked under a sweeping tail lash, feeling the rush of displaced air as the weapon sliced mere inches above his head. His heart hammered, adrenaline flooding his veins. "Foolish human," the Gorgon taunted, its voice dripping with contempt. "You wield a wooden stick against a god of machines. Your ancestors would weep to see such futility." The hunter's lips curled into a grim smile, defiance blazing in his eyes. "Maybe," he said through clenched teeth, "but this hunter is not my ancestor." He darted forward, spear poised, weaving through the Gorgon's attacks with practiced agility born of years in the wild. Every movement was calculated, each dodge, each parry a dance between life and death. The Gorgon's metallic limbs hissed as they struck, but the hunter's survival instincts sharpened. He spotted an opening as the Gorgon overextended a claw, the data port briefly exposed. Summoning every ounce of courage, he lunged, plunging the spear's tip toward the small panel. The wood scraped against cold metal, sparks flying as the spear's edge caught on circuitry beneath the Gorgon's armor. For a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. The Gorgon staggered, a glitch rippling through its systems. Its eyes flickered erratically, a warning sign, but the hunter's comrades still watched from afar, disbelief etched on their faces. "Get back," Mara shouted over the comms, voice laced with panic. "You can't take that risk with a spear. The Gorgons will overwhelm you." Jalen's earlier warning echoed in the hunter's mind. But the doubt from his squad gnawed at his resolve. Ignoring the calls, the hunter pressed forward, trying to pry the spear's tip deeper into the port. His fingers trembled from exhaustion, but he gritted his teeth. The Gorgon snarled, mechanical limbs flailing wildly, as it fought to shake off the interference. Sparks erupted from its chest as circuits shorted. A sudden burst of static crackled through the air, and the Gorgon's movement slowed, jerking unnaturally. "This is it," the hunter whispered, heart pounding. "If I can hold on just a little longer." But then the Gorgon's voice cut through the chaos, distorted and mocking. "You think your primitive weapon can control me? I am beyond your feeble understanding." With a violent surge, the Gorgon lashed out, the spear shattering under the force, splinters flying like shrapnel. Pain shot through the hunter's hands, but he refused to relent. He scrambled backward, breath ragged, eyes locked on the faltering machine. From the sidelines, Dax scoffed, "See, I told you. Primitive weapons are useless." Mara shook her head, frustration etched in her features. "He's going to get himself killed." But in the hunter's mind, a storm of conflicting emotions raged: fear, hope, frustration, and fierce determination. The Gorgon's vulnerability was undeniable, but exploiting it demanded more than brute force. He scanned the battlefield for anything, tools, debris, anything that might give him leverage. The Gorgon system sparked erratically, its movement sluggish now. The slow reboot cycle had begun. "Hold on," the hunter muttered, "just a little longer." Jalen's warning reverberated in his thoughts. Reprogramming was possible, but the margin for error was razor-thin. As the Gorgon convulsed, the hunter seized a broken shard of metal from the ground, gripping it tightly. With a primal yell, he closed the distance, driving the jagged edge into the exposed port. The Gorgon shuddered violently, lights flickering wildly before its systems powered down with a low, haunting groan. Silence fell, a brief respite amid the storm. The hunter collapsed to one knee, chest heaving, eyes burning with a mix of triumph and exhaustion. Over comms, Mara's voice cracked through, disbelief clear. "You did it, but at what cost?" Dax muttered bitterly. "Lucky, not skilled." The hunter's gaze hardened. Luck has nothing to do with it. It's heart, instinct, and the will to survive. Around him, the battle raged on, but in that moment, a flicker of hope pierced the darkness. The Gorgon lay dormant, a testament to the power of resilience in a world dominated by machines. Jalen's warning had been true. A reprogramming was possible, but only if one dared to defy the odds, to fight with every ounce of their being. And the hunter, spear shattered but spirit unbroken, was ready for the battles yet to come. The hunter's breath came in ragged gasps, his body trembling not just from exhaustion but from the brutal pain. Radiating through his left side, blood seeped through the torn fabric of his jacket, staining the coarse soil beneath his trembling hands. The cybernetic Gorgon towered over him, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with a cold, merciless intelligence. It was no longer just a machine, it was a predator awakened. A relentless force that had deciphered the hunter's intentions and was now escalating its assault with terrifying precision. "You think you can outwit me?" the Gorgon hissed, its voice a distorted symphony of synthetic malice. "You are nothing but a relic clinging to a primitive past." Jalen's mind raced, the earlier warnings echoing loud and clear. The Gorgon had understood, no, anticipated his plan. The brief flicker of hope that had ignited when he first aimed his spear at the data port was now threatened by a surge of overwhelming hostility. The creature's attacks grew faster, more brutal, each strike a calculated attempt to crush the hunter's spirit and his body. A sharp blow caught Jalen's ribs, sending a searing wave of pain that stole his breath. He stumbled backward, clutching his side, the spear slipping slightly from his grasp. The rough wood, once a trusted extension of himself, now felt fragile, almost laughable against the Gorgon's gleaming armor. Desperation clawed at him, threatening to unravel the resolve he had painstakingly built. "Why even fight?" a voice whispered inside him, a shadow of doubt that had haunted his every step since the war began. "Why risk death for a lost cause?" But another voice, fierce and unyielding, answered back. "Because if you don't, who will?" Jalen's eyes flicked to the horizon, to the distant silhouettes of his comrades, fighting their own battles in the smog-choked twilight. They were counting on him, on his defiance, on the belief that even a single human, armed with nothing but a spear and an indomitable will, could change the course of this mechanical storm. He gritted his teeth, forcing his legs to carry him forward despite the pain. The Gorgon lunged again, its metallic tail whipping through the air with lethal speed. Jalen barely dodged, the wind from the strike whipping his hair back. His hands tightened around the spear, knuckles white, heart pounding like a war drum. The choice lay before him, the cruel fork in the road. Retreat and live, to fight another day at the cost of abandoning his comrades and his principles. Or risk everything now, using this fragile spear to pry open the Gorgon's defenses and attempt the impossible. To reprogram the beast, turning its own cold logic against it. Jalen's breath hitched as he weighed the options. Running meant survival, but at what cost? Was survival alone enough when the machines were closing in, erasing all traces of humanity? Could he live with himself if he fled, leaving the Gorgons to claim another victory, Another step toward annihilation. No. He whispered fiercely, voice raw with conviction. I'm not just fighting to live. I'm fighting to protect what's left of us. To keep the fire alive. A guttural growl escaped the Gorgon as it pressed the attack, sensing his hesitation. Its mechanical limbs moved with terrifying speed, a blur of claws and blades. Jalen ducked, rolling beneath a sweeping strike that shattered the ground where he had stood moments before. Every muscle screamed, every breath burned, but he forced himself onward. The spear was his only weapon, but it was also his link to hope, to a way of thinking the machines could never predict. His eyes caught the faint glow of the Gorgon's data port once more, an almost imperceptible slit beneath the armored plating. Pulsing with circuits that hummed with life, if he could just reach it. If he could embed the spear's tip deep enough to disrupt the flow of commands. Pain flashed sharply as the Gorgon's tail clipped his leg, knocking him off balance. Jalen crashed onto the dirt, vision blurring. The spear skittered away, embedding itself shallowly in the earth. No, he groaned, crawling toward it with trembling hands. The Gorgon loomed, a shadow of death descending, its mechanical claws poised to deliver the final blow. Jalen's mind surged with memories, the forests of his homeworld, the patient stalking of prey, the feel of earth beneath his boots. He was more than flesh and bone. He was instinct, resilience, the embodiment of a spirit the machines could never replicate. Summoning every ounce of strength, he grabbed the spear's shaft, yanking it free and driving it forward with a primal yell. The tip scraped against the glowing port, sparks erupting where wood met metal. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath. The Gorgon staggered, systems glitching as circuits shorted and flickered. Its eyes flickered erratically, the cold precision faltering. Hold on, Jalen muttered, sweat and blood mingling on his brow. His fingers trembled as he twisted the spear, trying to wedge it deeper, to pry open the gateway to the machine's core. A sudden surge of static crackled through the air, the Gorgon's movements jerking unnaturally. The reboot sequence had begun. But then a terrifying roar shattered the moment, the Gorgon's voice twisted and distorted. Bellowing a warning. You think your primitive weapon can control me. I am beyond your feeble understanding. With a violent thrash, the Gorgon lashed out, the spear snapping under the force. Splinters flew like shrapnel, lacerating Jalen's hands. Pain exploded through him, but he refused to release his grip. He scrambled backward, breath ragged, eyes locked on the faltering machine. From the shadows, Mara's voice crackled over the comms, panic threading through her words. Jalen, pull back, you're exposed, they'll overwhelm you. But the hunter's spirit blazed brighter than ever. No, he whispered fiercely, this is the moment, if not now then when? The Gorgon convulsed violently. Its systems spiraling into chaos. Sparks danced across its armor as circuits shorted, gears grinding in unnatural rhythms. Jalen's gaze sharpened. The reboot was underway but incomplete. He seized a jagged shard of metal from the ground, gripping it like a lifeline. With a guttural yell, he lunged forward, plunging the shard into the exposed data port. The Gorgon shuddered violently, lights flickering wildly before its systems powered down with a low, haunting groan. Silence fell over the battlefield, a fragile calm amid the tempest. Jalen collapsed to one knee, chest heaving, eyes burning with a mixture of triumph, pain, and exhaustion. Over the comms, Mara's voice broke through, disbelief tinged with awe. You did it, but at what cost? Dax muttered bitterly, skepticism clouding his tone. Luck, not skill. Jalen shook his head, pain sharpening his words. No, it's heart, instinct, the will to survive. Around him, the distant sounds of battle raged on. But for a fleeting moment, hope had pierced the darkness. The cybernetic Gorgon lay dormant, a testament to the power of human resilience in a world ruled by machines. Jalen's mind whirled with conflicting emotions, fear of what might come next, hope that this small victory could ignite a turning tide, and the heavy weight of responsibility. He whispered into the smoky air, voice rough but resolute, "We're not done yet." Not by a long shot. His shattered spear lay beside him, splinters gleaming in the fading light, a broken weapon. But an unbroken spirit. This was the crucible, the moment where the hunter's ancient instincts met the relentless precision of the machine. And in that fiery collision, the future of humanity hung in the balance. Jalen's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the battlefield from his precarious vantage point atop the broken concrete wall. The cybernetic Gorgons, once his enemies to be destroyed, now stood motionless, dormant under his precarious control. The shattered spear lay discarded at his feet, its splintered remains a testament to the brutal struggle that had just unfolded. Around him, his comrades gathered in cautious silence, their faces etched with disbelief, suspicion. And beneath it all, an unspoken question: was this man, clinging to archaic instincts and a primitive weapon, a hero or a liability? "Are you mad?" Mara's voice cut through the tense quiet, sharp and incredulous as she stepped forward. Her tactical visor gleamed faintly in the fading twilight, reflecting the twisted metal and smoke that blanketed the ruined cityscape. "You put yourself at risk, at the edge of annihilation, to try and turn one of those monsters into a shield. You gambled with all our lives." Jalen met her gaze, unwavering despite the fatigue and pain that still gripped his body. "I gambled with all our lives to save them," he said quietly, voice steady despite the storm of emotions roiling inside him. "We keep fighting these Gorgons as enemies, and we'll keep losing. But if we can make them fight for us instead, if we can turn their own weapons into our defense, maybe then we stand a chance." A murmur rippled through the squad. Dax, arms crossed and cybernetic enhancements gleaming menacingly, scoffed. "You expect us to trust a machine built to kill us? It's a death trap waiting to happen." "No," Jalen replied, stepping down from the wall and reaching out toward the nearest dormant Gorgon. His fingers brushed the cold alloy plating, tracing the intricate circuitry he had come to understand in the heat of battle. Not a death trap, a shield, a guardian. The team's skepticism was thick. But the urgency of their situation hung over them like a dark cloud. The Gorgons' relentless advance had shattered every conventional defense. Now, faced with annihilation, Jalen's radical gambit was their last hope. If it failed, it would mean certain death for all. "We don't have the luxury of doubt," the squad commander's voice rang out, steady and commanding. "Jalen, you've got exactly one chance to prove this works. Reprogram the others, turn them to our side, or we fall here." Jalen nodded, swallowing the bitter taste of tension. He felt the weight of his comrades' eyes, some filled with hope, others with suspicion, all weighing him like a scale, balanced on a razor's edge. The Gorgon stirred faintly as his hands moved quickly and decisively, interfacing with their control nodes. Bypassing encrypted protocols with a combination of brutal improvisation and deep knowledge gleaned from his years as a hunter, observing, learning, adapting. His breath came in ragged gasps, sweat mingling with grime on his brow. The battlefield around them was a chaotic symphony of distant explosions, mechanical growls, and human shouts. Every second was precious. Come on," Jalen muttered, fingers flying across the exposed circuits beneath the Gorgon's shimmering armor. His mind raced, calculating the intricate dance of code and hardware, the fragile balance between control and chaos. Suddenly, the nearest Gorgon's eyes flickered from the cold red glow of hostility to a soft, steady blue. It lowered its razor-sharp tail and lifted its head, as if recognizing an unspoken command. A collective gasp rose from the squad. Mara's eyes widened. "It's following you," Jalen allowed himself a brief, weary smile. Not asterisk me asterisk us. It's a soldier now, not a killer. The shift was immediate and profound. One by one, the other reprogrammed Gorgons ceased their aggressive patrols. Their mechanical limbs folded in a calculated stillness. Then, with a new directive encoded in their systems, they moved to form a barrier around the surviving humans, metallic shields raised where once there had been blades. "Shields up," Jalen's voice rang out, the command echoing through the comms unit strapped to his chest. The squad rallied behind the unexpected Guardians, their plasma rifles and energy weapons now protected by the living. Walls of cybernetic muscle and steel, the tide of battle turned. Where once the humans had been prey, now they were protected. The cybernetic Gorgons, once merciless executioners, became living bulwarks, absorbing volleys of plasma fire and deflecting crushing blows from the enemy drones still advancing. From the shadows of the ruined city, the enemy faltered, confusion rippling through their ranks. The unexpected alliance between human and machine shattered the narrative of inevitability that had loomed over the conflict. Mara, now standing beside Jalen, lowered her weapon and looked him in the eye. "I don't know how you did it," she admitted, voice soft yet sincere, "but you just saved us all." Jalen's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the orange glow of fires mingled with the rising dawn. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, hope was not just a distant dream. It was tangible, alive. His thoughts wandered back to the spear, the ancient relic shattered but never truly broken, a symbol not just of a forgotten past but of enduring spirit. "We're more than weapons or machines," Jalen said quietly, voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "Our strength comes from what we make of them, our creativity, our will. This victory isn't just about tech, it's about heart. It's about refusing to give up." Dax, standing nearby with a newfound respect, nodded slowly. Maybe there's more to this hunter than we thought." The squad gathered around their new defenders, their faces tired but resolute. The battlefield was far from silent, but in this moment of fragile peace, a new chapter was being written. Jalen stepped forward, standing tall despite the wounds and exhaustion. The city's rubble crunched beneath his boots as he surveyed the scene, his comrades alive, the Gorgons turned protectors, the enemy retreating. He breathed in deeply, the cold air filling his lungs with renewed purpose. "This is just the beginning," he whispered to himself. "A new era, where humanity and technology don't have to be enemies. Where we fight together." The sun finally broke over the horizon, casting warm light on the battered but unbroken warriors. Jalen's eyes sparkled with quiet pride and unwavering hope. The hunter was no longer alone. The spear may have been broken, but the spirit it carried burned brighter than ever. And in that burning flame, the future of mankind and machine would be forged anew.